All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 633, Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. I'm Pat Moran. This is Tone Pucks with me. This is our Monday episode. We are talking about a blowout Buffalo Bills victory over the Miami Dolphins. Let me start here because you were actually at the game today, at least most of the game. You left a little bit early. I'm going to throw you under the bus for that. But
no problem.
You were at the game. I listened, or I didn't listen. I saw quotes from the post game and Sean McDermott a short while ago. And by the way, we're taping this maybe an hour or two after the game, just for people, whether you're watching this later tonight or on Monday morning, listening in podcast form. Sean McDermott said after the game that for him, that might have been as loud as he's ever heard that stadium. You were there. Would you concur?
Yeah. As loud as maybe you've ever heard that stadium that early in the season. All right. Mm-hmm. Openers, obviously super loud, but there was just an absolute vibe to today that had a lot to do with the weather, man. Like it was just this perfect fucking day to be at that stadium, to be outside. My son, who I went with, kind of said, it's got kind of a day at the ballpark feel. The climate was just perfect. I mean, you just walked in there feeling perfect. You were comfortable. You didn't have to rock any layers or anything like that. You were just, it was such a comfortable setting, and you mix that with your pregame and stuff like that, and the stakes for today's game. Excuse me. And I think that's a legitimate case to be made that McDermott mentioned.
And we'll talk obviously some about the stakes from this game. I never, 1 out of 17 to me is bullshit sometimes, and this was certainly one of those weeks. The last couple of weeks we've done this show post-game, especially last week, I remember this vividly. Every time I tried to bring up a player and a point, you said you need to see is against Miami. And not that you were wrong, but that was your stance, and you said that over and over again. So we'll talk about some of that in just a few minutes here. But back to that crowd being in the stadium, did you sense? I mean, look, it's Buffalo. Fans care about this team. It's always loud. But it was like this game, like the fans needed this game. Like this, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. Make sure I don't fuck this up. But this wasn't just another game for the fans. Go to the game, your home team wins, you go nuts. Like this game felt really important to the fans. Did you kind of get that vibe from walking around some and being inside that stadium that, God, I really, really, really want this game more than others?
Maybe not in the moment, but as you mention it, and thinking about, how easy some of these fans are to, to play the underdog card, especially, during the off season when, when Bills were taking their hits and stuff like that, in terms of, AFC East favorites, and certainly through the first 3 weeks of this season. I think, a lot of fans felt that way too. And I think what you may have seen was a little bit of, that sort of energy kind of come out. Like hey, we're an underdog of sorts. Certainly not in the game, not in the betting odds. But you go back, the past few years against Miami was certainly with Tua and a little bit of McDaniel as well. And the Bills are usually about a touchdown favorite in this football game in that stadium, right?
Yeah.
Not today. Today it was under 3, and under 3 kind of says, we're not, I'm not sure, you're the better team. We're going to give you a 2.5 because you're the home team, but I'm not sure you're the better team. And look, anyone who's looking at, these two teams through a lens strictly of the first 3 weeks of the season could easily come to that conclusion. I know I did. I know I went into this game saying to myself, I'm not sure, we're the better football team right now.
You said that last week too.
And what they proved today is that at least on this day, and probably man for man, all right, roster to roster, they are the better football team still, us. And today we made it look like the gap isn't as near as some people do. Like, look, I'm not a arrow up, arrow down guy or anything like that. No offense to anyone who goes with that. It's a way to build a narrative about a football game. Sure. All right. But if I'm going to throw out a game ball today, I had this thought probably as early as midway through the second quarter. All right, Brandon Beane's getting one. Okay. The better football roster won today. The better football roster won today. That's how I feel. And it's even, you can even make the point further. Obviously, when we start to talk about the injuries and the fact that even though a terrific football player went down for us, we're not fucked. All right. We're not fucked. We had a terrific football player not able to go today. And not to say that Taylor Rapp really did much, but we were able to overcome that. All right. We were able to overcome that. And we're getting plays from like our fifth defensive end and shit. Who else is getting sacks from their fifth defensive end? Yeah. All right. The better roster won today. Shout out Brandon Beane, because there are certain days where, you can, even though he's more of the focal point in the off season, I like to look at a game and think about the way the roster was built as it related to this game. And today, our roster was significantly better. The depth of our roster was significantly better. And at the quarterback too.
I don't know how you could answer the bell better than the Bills did today. I think the verdict was out on them. It was out on them from you. It was out on them from people who covered the team, people who followed the team. A lot of people were picking Miami. I know the Bills were favored to win the game, a small favorite, but everything I saw on Twitter, like Miami was getting like 60 to 70 something percent of the bets. The money line was going on Miami. And if they would have won, look, a win against Miami would be huge no matter what. But if they win 48 to 45, it's like, well, the defense, I'm worried about them. Or if they win an ugly game 20 to 17, you got questions about the offense. Like this roster today, everything about it was firing on all cylinders. Maybe not defensively in the first couple of possessions, but man, did they buckle down after that. And, they played great defense. I just don't know how you answered the bell better than you did today. I thought the Bills could win. I was pretty confident actually that the Bills were going to win this game, but if you would have told me they were going to win 48-20, I would have said, no way, man. It's just, they answered the bell in every way that you could answer it today. It was fun to watch as a fan, especially. It was just fun to watch.
They didn't just answer the bell today, though. They answered the bell coming off of a lot of question marks in their from their season opener.
Yeah,
and that's where I give them. That's where I get them credit. They've answered the bell and they've played near flawless football for 3 straight weeks.
Yeah, now being at the game, I watched it on TV, and Tony Romo was who I thought. I don't know. Some fans still hate him. Whatever. I'm a Tony Romo guy. I think he's good. And he had some really good points that he talked about throughout the game. And one of them, and I want to ask if you agree with this, is in hindsight now, Tony Romo thinks Buffalo losing to the Jets in week 1 was actually the best thing to happen to them. Based on the last 3 weeks, I don't know, man. Maybe he's not wrong. You don't want to lose a game. Don't get me wrong. But you lose week 1 and you learn a lot. Like Josh Allen just doesn't look like the same quarterback that he did in week 1. Now, there's not a lot of defenses as good as the Jets either. But goddamn, dude. I mean, do you agree with that? Do you see that maybe losing that game was the best thing to happen to them?
Well, yeah. I mean, God forbid you fucking set aside 5 minutes and find us talking about that exact clip in the first the first episode of the year. I mean, we talked about that, we talked about it. All you got to do is just go grab the clip and, you could play it and I'd be able to catch my breath for 30 seconds. Yeah, man. I think we both agreed on it then, and Romo making the point now, certainly works. The only thing I said then, and I'll echo it now, is it's still very, very early. All right. Did the wake up call come too early? We have seen in the past several years of seasons that take on their own identity. We have seen the Bills playing great football at the right time. We have seen them playing not their best football at the time when you need them to be. We have seen a lot of seasons take on their own identity. We're only a quarter away through this one. Its early identity is a hiccup on opening day. Seemed to right the ship immediately in the 3 consecutive convincing wins. and the story will continue to be built upon, over the next few weeks.
4 losses in the last 21 games over a quarter of this season and 17 games last year by 11 points total. 4 losses, 2 of those were in overtime too. This is just a team that finds a way to win. And winning these 3 games in convincing fashion. I don't even think there's been a moment over these last 3 games where you thought, you know what, we're going to be in trouble. Even though Miami, again, offensively came out on fire as you would expect today. What was your confidence level going into today on Sunday as we tape this? I know what it might have been like during the week, but like, how did you feel when you woke up on Sunday morning? Because I'm going to tell you, I felt good. I really did. How'd you feel going into this game?
Coin flip football game all day long. Yeah, man. Yeah. Same as I did going into the Jets. Felt the Jets was a coin flip. Felt today was a coin flip. You get down under, to a field goal or less, and that's pretty much going to be my position. I'm not, going to put myself out there, not for fear of being wrong, just because I think the bettors usually have it right. I think the odds makers usually have it right, and I think this was, a coin flip game. Now, I said this last week, actually, about the Washington game, whereas if I was a shooter and saw a 7-point favorite, when it came down to the Bills roster and Washington's roster, especially at the quarterback spot, I would have been kicking myself probably for not pounding the Bills, minus the 7. You could say the same thing today. You could say the same thing today, because there are people that, although it's a very homer take, okay, there are people that looked at these 2 rosters and said, we're still better, man. We're just flat out still better. We're deeper. We're just, a lot of people felt like the window was closing. So you got people out there worried that the window is closing, or you've got, national media talking about the window closing. And then you've got people that are trying not to sound like a homer, but looking at this team like, man, I'm not sure the roster's ever been better.
Yeah.
Today, we saw that. Today, we saw, what this roster can do 1 through, I don't know, how many did they dress? 51, whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, like, they get contributions all over the place, man. All over the place.
They do. And they did today as well. I agree with you. And I say, based on this week, going back to the Jets, not me, a lot of people, it just doesn't feel like a good matchup for Buffalo. Historically, recent history, I don't mean like historically all time, but recently, they just had the Bills number. Conversely, I think people didn't give Josh Allen and the Bills enough respect this week, because he has played exceptionally well now for years against the Miami Dolphins. And I didn't pay much attention to the pregame picks. I'm willing to bet money, though, that Miami, more people picked Miami. I know the CBS pregame show, they had their upsets of the week, and 2 of the 4 picked Miami as the upset of the week. But anyway,
this shouldn't even be allowed to be considered an upset of the week.
I know. If it's 3 points or under, that's not really an upset. I dug up the numbers. Josh Allen's last 3 games, this is against Miami. This is his last 3 games since that Jets debacle in week 1. 72 of 94, 77% completion percentage, 812 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. And that 1 interception was against Washington on 3rd down, that bomb that was essentially a punt, and 2 rushing touchdowns. He's probably going to win AFC Offensive Player of the Week for a second time in 3 weeks since that Jets game. I said it a few minutes ago. How do you answer the bell better than that? He's going to win AFC Offensive Player of the Week 2 times in 3 weeks since.
Yeah, but you didn't dig them up. They were actually right there the whole time. Right there on your screen.
Well, I dug them up and wrote them down.
I got you. Okay. All right, here's what I got. Here's what I got on Josh, and it's kind of piggybacking the point with Beane and roster building and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think today's game script, all right, as far as our ability to run the football when we got up 31 to 20, or when they got to within 31 to 20, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think about Dayball teams, and I love Brian Dayball as an OC, man. All right. But Dayball would be like, that's cute. You're going to get to within 9 points. All right. I'm going to drop a bomb on you and make you go do it again. All right.
Yeah.
Dayball used to do that shit. McDermott's a little bit of a different cat. All right. McDermott manages the game differently. McDermott doesn't want to go, deflate you over the top and make you come do it again. I'm sure he'd love to. But McDermott wants to go kind of into his 4-minute offense. All right. He wants to take some time off the clock. He wants to take a 2-score lead in the third quarter. And instead of just saying, go ahead, Dayball's way is kind of the macho way, it's the ballsy way. Go ahead. You're never going to match us drive for drive. Just try it. We're just going to come out and do it again, whatever we feel like. Those years were fun. But I don't think those are McDermott's recipe. And I don't know that I would say that, the way that Dayball did things, ever really kind of bit us in the ass. I don't know that they did. All right. At least if you look at the games that ended our seasons, I don't know that we were bit in the ass by being too aggressive offensively or not giving our defense a rest or, that sort of thing. But I think McDermott has a different approach to it. And I think when McDermott's got an 11-point lead in the middle of a third quarter, okay, McDermott wants to be able to use all 3 of his running back. He wants to move the chains. He wants to take a little bit of air out of the stadium. And that's exactly what they did today. I think this was, this epitomized what, a big win in Sean McDermott's eyes looked like. I'm so hesitant to say it was a McDermott wet dream because it's like not funny at all, but it was, bro. All right. It was the McDermott blueprint today. He wants to be able to run the football when he's got the lead. And this is the first time in a while they've had a football team that can do that.
And by the way, look, if we're going to UI or anybody for that matter, you're going to sit there and put Ken Dorsey on blast when the offense looks like shit. If you're going to blast Sean McDermott, is he really doing a good job calling the plays if the defense plays bad, which we haven't seen this year. So we really don't know that, not in 2023 anyway. But these guys deserve a hell of a lot of fucking credit today. I thought both coordinators, if you want to put McDermott as defensive coordinator, was fantastic. That Bills' first couple drives, mixing in the run, that pass that Ken Dorsey dialed up for Gabe Davis for that touchdown. The guy was in motion. Miami didn't see that coming. I thought Sean McDermott did a great job of some blitzing, a little more aggressive. He was not going to get beat deep. That's one thing I could tell about this defense today. You asked me when you came over to my house here how Taylor Rapp looked from what I saw. And didn't really notice him too much. He mistimed the jump where I think he could have had an interception, but he certainly didn't kill the Bills defense. But I think he was just playing center field a lot. They were not going to let Waddle and Hill get behind them and score a one play, 76-yard touchdown. That just wasn't going to happen today. He was going to make Tua going up and down the field. Anyway, I just thought McDermott did a great job of mixing it up, blitzing, dropping guys back, infusing Tua a little bit. They got to him 4 times. He only been sacked 1 time in the first 3 games. Sacked him 4 times. 2 turnovers the defense caused. I just thought this was an extraordinary game, maybe the best game I've seen from Ken Dorsey as offensive coordinator. Just everything seemed to work. Running the ball, throwing the ball, guys were open. You got to execute, of course, the players. But man, I really enjoyed the coaching today. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, I jumped on the McDermott bandwagon as far as the game script and just the general tempo up to 2 scores in the third quarter. But yeah, prior to that, a big part of getting up those 2 scores, and certainly a big part of going 3 for 3 on the first 3 drives of the game. I mean, this was a Madden game for the first 5 drives, man. I mean,
but it was fun though, was it?
It was, yeah, sure, but. It was a blast. But you knew it was gonna start to take the shape of, all right, now what defense, makes the first stop? Who doesn't hold serve first?
Yeah.
And in this case, The Bills, I mean, once they got that first stop, they really seemed to
second quarter.
Yeah, man, they seemed to, to dominate that particular part of the game, and it was huge, man. It was huge. But Dorsey got us. Look, Dorsey's. I, of course, always have to, make some sort of astute comment amongst my section. I'm definitely not the guy who's like, "Come on, get up." Not that guy, but I will try to make an astute observation. Yeah. And I think after the third touchdown, it might have been into the second quarter by then, but I was just like, this is, and I say it loud enough because I want to make sure that, you can hear me like 6 rows away. This has been Ken Dorsey's best quarter of play calls since he's been here. So, then I look for people to turn to me like, well, oh yeah, great point, man. Do you have a podcast? Yeah, but that's how I felt about Dorsey. He looked great. And early on, they were just humming, obviously. First play, mostly scripted, probably. Or I'm sorry, first drive, mostly scripted. And it seemed like they had, a lot of plays dialed up that, that were worked on. I mean, the one-on-one to Knox. All right. That's not, obviously we're all going to go crazy for Knox for lowering his head, and
Javon Holland too. That's a great safety.
Getting the extra, 3 to 5 yards. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, man, all right, that play that play wasn't a check down. Okay. That wasn't meant to go to the right and then a check down to Knox. That was a play designed to put Knox, a big, strong, athletic, offensive skill position guy, all right, in a little bit of a secondary role now. Mm-hmm. That was a play to get him the football and see if he could go truck somebody for an extra 3 or 4 yards, put us in a second or third and manageable. It's the first time this year I can really remember it working that way. All those dink and dunks, the smoke and mirrors type of plays that would go to Deontay Hardy, maybe coming off the edge, out of motion or something like that. Those were like 3 to 5 yard duds through the first several weeks. Mm-hmm. This week, though, some of the inside 10-yard dial-ups really seemed to work, and that's Dorsey taking a step. That's are we starting to see the evolution? You
talked about that last week.
Are we starting to see the evolution of 12 personnel and what I think McDermott wants it to look like? I think this is the first time McDermott's really had the opportunity to both dictate offense and defense. He had powerful coordinators in the past. with Dayball and Frazier. I'm sure he had some say. I'm sure he had plenty of input. But right now, the way the Bills are playing offense and defense is exactly what Sean McDermott wants them to be doing.
I loved that Dawson Knox catch and running over of Javon Holland, again, who's one of the better safeties in the league. I feel like it set a physical tone for the game, and it matters. And I keep coming back to what you talked about with Brandon Beane and just this roster and contributions from everybody. Latavius Murray was very good. Again, he had that 30-some yard run early on, caught a 22-yard pass.
That was designed. That's another play I want to bring up. You talk about, I mentioned the Knox play being, I think, more of a design than a check down. I think that was true of the Murray 22-yard reception as well. I believe that was a 4-receiver set, totally designed to be a check down to Murray, the bigger back against the smaller defenders. Yeah. That's the sort of shit I don't think we were seeing from Dorsey early on. I think it was a lot of Hardy, it was a lot of Kincaid, it was a lot of trying to get those two going in positions of yak yards and things like that. Today, though, it had a different feel. It was like, let me get a couple big men out there in space on the smaller defender, and that's a nice adjustment. Those two plays in particular come to mind because I really feel like the Murray play was not a check down. I believe that was a 4-receiver set designed to go to Murray the whole time.
And I liked what Deontay Hardy, he had a really nice play.
There's probably a soundbite out there that's like totally wrong. Like somebody asked Josh about that play, and Josh was like, "No, man, you just saw Murray in the flat." Like I'm probably saying that right now, and somebody's got
you could be
GR on completely wrong. I think I am right though. I think that play was designed to be a check down to Murray. I think we saw, Dorsey create things more today for more people today, than he has the last few weeks.
Shakir, last couple of weeks, I should say, made big plays in limited snaps. Hardy made a really nice catch on a low ball from Josh Allen, got up and got the first down. That was big. So, yeah, contributions from lots of guys has been big. Yeah, that started that game, though. Even if it was just for 5 minutes, I kind of removed like the fandom from it. I was just enjoying that game. And I had TweetDeck open, so I was looking at tweets from everybody was in on that game, man, early on. I seen like AFC championship game kind of vibes. I mean, a couple people were tweeting about that. I mean, forget that the Chiefs are in the conference. But anyway, it was fun. But yes, that second quarter. So Buffalo, 8 plays, 75-yard drive, bam. Miami comes back, 8 plays, 77-yard drive, bam. Buffalo comes back, touchdown, bam. Miami comes back, bam. Buffalo comes back, bam. 5 straight touchdowns. And then from there, the Bills defense took over that second quarter, which was the difference in the game. 3 straight stops. And then on the fourth one, a forced fumble by Matt Milano, who I remember saying last week didn't really do anything, but he wasn't needed last week. I specifically mentioned that. Well, he played like an all-pro linebacker today. I thought he was absolutely sensational. Anyway, he forced the fumble. Terrell Bernard, who just has that nose for the football right now, he falls on it. Bills score again, and it's on, man. So that second quarter to me was the ball game.
Yeah, fumbles are one of the weirdest plays to really to know what the hell's going on when you're there, especially if it's wide side, man. When you see, like, I have no idea who forced the fumble, no idea who recovered it. I'm just watching a bunch of hands go this way, and I'm waiting for the ref to make the call. But I trust it, that you're right, that it was Milano. I don't know why I didn't pick up on the replay. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about being at the games where if it's a scrum, you're fucked. You have no clue. You're just waiting for the referee's hand at that point. When you're watching on TV, you can kind of see a ball be recovered in a scrum. Right. If you're in the stands, you got no prayer unless it's out in the open. You got no prayer of knowing how a ball got recovered in a scrum.
I feel like week after week, we have Bills recaps, and it takes to this part of the show about halfway through to even talk about Stefon Diggs. And I mean, this guy, what he does for this team is just unbelievable. Today, he was, what's that saying? A man amongst boys. He legit was. I mean, that second touchdown, he just refused to get tackled. And then I got to look the dude's name up, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. Cater Kahu, I think, or something like that is his name. That number 4 for Miami. That was like that third touchdown. He cooked him so bad. He cooked him so freaking bad, man. But 6 catches, $120, 3 touchdowns. Just another absolutely dominant game from Stefon Diggs. You saw the animation on the sideline getting the fans fired up. I don't know, man. It seems a long way removed from this offseason where I feel like there was fair, legitimate concern that maybe Stephen A. Smith ain't lying. Maybe Stefon Diggs doesn't want to be here. Maybe he does have beef with this organization. Maybe he thinks that this team won't get over the hump. That's the way, it kind of felt a handful of months ago. But I'll be damn, man, this dude is just unbelievable. He is making play after play. And those last 2 touchdowns today, I don't know, man. They really highlight the type of player that he is. Just one of the best in the league. Just another dominant performance. And he's been great again. All 4 games, he's been great.
It's just it's amazing to me how Steph can put the numbers up that he does with so much of it coming in the intermediate range. I mean,
back-to-back weeks though, he's gotten behind somebody on long passes and doesn't get the credit for the yards but he's drawing long pass interference penalties back-to-back weeks. But yeah, you're right.
And today's one of his touchdowns today, I think it was the second. It's the worst display of tackling of a receiver I've ever seen in my life. That guy who came in second, just now look to, it may have worked out in Steph's benefit because sometimes, man, and I think it's smart. All right. I compare it kind of to the way Thurman was, when Thurman, instead of taking that big hit, would head out of bounds. I think Steph gives himself up from time to time. Like, look, I'm not going to risk a fumble for an extra couple of yards. All right. Steph is very protective of the football. And sometimes, that's a product of giving himself up a little early, which I'm fine with. Perhaps these corners and the second one getting into the getting to the point of attack in particular may have kind of had that in the back of their mind, like, hey, this isn't someone who fights for an extra few yards. Nothing against Steph, because he can fight for those yards, but at times he's like, all right, man, I've made the catch, I'm heading down. And Steph definitely fooled him on this one, man, because that man just came in like that play was over. And and all of a sudden Steph's, come on, man, when have we ever seen that? He breaks free for an extra 30 yards after catch, breaking tackles. That's just not who he is. And he did it today, and probably caught Miami by surprise a little bit, but also I think you can certainly point to the fact that he was just in his zone, and that's what he was bringing today.
By the way, going back to the defense in that second quarter, Miami ran 12 plays. They had 3 punts, a fumble, and only had 35 yards in the second quarter, where, again, I think that game was kind of made there in the second quarter. Yeah, Stefon, a big game. Gabe Davis, a lot of hype and talk about him going into the season. He's quietly playing really well this year. 3 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown today. 2 straight games with a touchdown. It's funny because, again, there was a lot of hype about him going in, but it's kind of being like ho-hum quietly. He's being a really solid number 2 receiver for the Bills right now this year.
I think the difference is that they are not as dependent upon his production as they were last year. They didn't have, they lose their slot guy going into the season with Crowder. McKenzie starts playing the slot. And I think, that was, I don't think that bode well for the offense as a whole last year. We were constantly chasing that third option at receiver. And Knox did some stuff last year still, but I think a lot fell on Gabe Davis last year that's not necessarily falling on him this year, with the likes of Kincaid. And today we see Hardy and
Sherfield,
Sherfield with a couple catches. Also did a really nice job setting the edge on a kickoff. I don't know if you remember that one, but he was alone on an island on the edge and stayed really wide. And I was just like, man, dude, we've got a 4th receiver who's can catch the football, make plays, and set the edge on a kickoff. I mean, again, all right. The roster build, man, a 4th receiver who's making contributions like that. You just don't see a lot of it. But back to Gabe's contributions, I think we're just seeing a guy who's not being asked to do as much, doesn't have nearly the pressure on him this year that may have been on him last year, because Josh has other options, and so far so good. Gabe's catching big balls, and he's also been the beneficiary of some really nice X's and O's plays. Today's first touchdown was just, the motion, the ball fake.
It was a really good call.
Good shit.
Everything about that was perfect. Josh 21-25, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he ran for a touchdown as well. Only 4 incompletions. One of them was definitely a drop by Shakir. And I'm trying to think. One, I remember Miami played a night, somebody on the defense made a nice pass breakup. I can't remember the other 2, but he had more touchdowns. He accounted for more touchdowns than incomplete passes today. That's just a statement. And look, dude, we can't talk about Josh Allen going off and Stefon Diggs going off and Gabe Davis doing so well without talking about this offensive line, who, again, sans the Jets game, they've been really good these last 3 weeks. They kind of shut down Max Crosby. They kind of shut down Chase Young last week. And this week, I think I told you this when we were bantering before the show, it almost seems like Christian Wilkins and Bradley Chubb barely even played today. They did nothing in this game for Miami. If I'm a Miami Dolphin fan right now, I'm not really worried about the offense. You kind of ran into a a hot defense, things just didn't go your way. But this defensive line just gave them zero. At least their two star players gave them zero today. I think Bradley Chubb's biggest contribution in the game was kind of restraining Christian Wilkins when he was going at it with, I don't know, Spencer Brown or one of the offensive linemen. Anyway, two stud or supposedly stud defensive linemen from Miami did shit today. Bill's offensive line was yet again really, really good.
They were. We want to see it for more than a couple weeks. We want to see a sustained level of play that looks like this, going
3 weeks is sustained
going into midseason. I do, but again, this is, and I know the Raiders had Crosby, but again, they were a little bit of a one-trick pony with Crosby, and I don't know, maybe I'm just not ready. Maybe I'm just not ready to give it up to the line. I think it can be very easy to to hail the line's play when Josh is as elusive as he can be, and I think he had a couple plays today,
not a lot though.
Where he had to get around, and that's the thing though. I
that improvised pass to James Cook for 48, man.
And the difference is, and I'm not saying that it goes back necessarily to last year and the head injuries and things like that, but when Tua's on the run, he's looking to just get the ball out. He's looking to just get the ball out. When Josh is on the run, he's still looking to make plays. Today, I think we saw the difference between a quarterback who's looking to make plays when he's rushed and a quarterback who's just looking to get the ball out when he's rushed.
Tua coming into this game 3 weeks in was the early season, and obviously very early season MVP. And I think that should have been unanimous. If I had a vote after 3 weeks, if you had a vote, I don't see why you wouldn't vote for Tua. I certainly would.
How do we get a vote? Can we get a vote?
I mean, podcast.
That's what I'm saying. Why? Can we apply? Can we just apply for a vote? No. I think we deserve a vote.
No. Would you have voted for Tua as MVP based on 3 weeks?
I have no idea. I just simply wasn't following the league close enough.
All right. Well, I'm
ready to take it off the rails right now. I'm so billsed out, bro. I am super billsed out. I want to talk about how comfortable your couch is and all kinds of other shit.
You were catnapping before. So it's funny. So my wife's out there getting ready to do stuff, and my son's cooking in the kitchen, and we're getting ready to start the show soon. And I figured maybe you're just having a conversation or you're on the porch talking or something. I come out and you're catnapping.
It was a comfortable couch, man, and I wish I was still on it.
All right. You almost made me lose my train of thought here. Anyway, 3 weeks in, Tua to me was the NFL MVP easily. Today shows me that, no disrespect to him, he's a good quarterback. He's not on Josh Allen's level. He's just not. Miami does some really good things on offense, timing-wise, and with Tyreek Hill, more on him in a second. But today just shows me that Josh Allen's just flat out a significantly better quarterback than Tua. And Tua is really good at some things. But if you could take away the timing and stuff like that and make him hold the ball longer, he's not very good. He could have gotten picked off at least. He did get picked off by Micah Hyde. He could have gotten picked off easily 3 times. Trey
could have gone before he went down. Trey could have gone the other way with that thing.
Taylor
Rapp. Thank God we won't have to worry about that anymore because Dane Jackson's going to make that play next week.
We'll talk about Trey too.
Got to, man. Got to.
Yeah. Well, we're going to. Let's go to Tyreek Hill.
Okay. I'm like, how much longer before Trey? Like, how much longer do I have to be here?
I don't know, dude. Would you rather have been talking about, a 48-20 loss to Miami? This feels good to be out doing this right now after this type of game because I keep coming up with point after point that's positive if you're a Bills fan watching this shit or listening.
I agree. I agree, but it's dark and musty and like outside. It's sunny October day. We don't get a lot of those.
Tyreek Hill was a non-factor. 3 catches, 58 yards. And this is the 3rd straight week where I said the one player, not Miami's different because there were more than just one player, but the player on the team for a 3rd straight week that could turn this game and wreck it would be Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill could win you a game. He did against the Chargers in week 1. Literally, they couldn't stop him. He just roasted that secondary, threw the ball up, made plays. Buffalo just, again, credit to McDermott and whatever schemes he had dialed up. Tyreek Hill was not getting deep. 3 catches for 58 yards, and he had 1 run for like 11 yards or something. That's not going to get it done. So again, just great Bills defense against one of the better players in the league.
I feel like at least one of those, well, definitely one, maybe two, came on the first drive. He looked like he got in kind of in between the linebacker and safety level on the first drive one time. Was he the one? Did he make the catch? When you were referring to Rapp misplaying the ball, it was, to me, from my angle, it was a whale of a catch by the Dolphin, but I don't know who it was.
I don't remember.
It wasn't Tyreek.
It wasn't Tyreek, and it was a nice catch, but again, it should have been intercepted. It's just a bad time jump.
I mean, it was the same exact play as the Shakir drop, if you want to call it that. It was the exact same play. Two defenders going up at the high point there. Thought that might have been Hill. Guess not. But
Waddle 4 catches, 46 yards too. So they really contain their 2 stars.
I don't even remember the Waddle catches. Yes. After the first drive, after he got open in the second level, at least one time in the first drive, it was gone, man. It was just, it was gone. Look, Sean McDermott, there are guys out there who come from the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball and end up head coaches, and their ego just takes them back to, those strengths and feeling as though they've got to be responsible for them. When in actuality, they were really never anything special on that side of the ball to begin with. They had Tom Brady or something like that. You know what I mean? When you talk about a lot of New England coordinators who ended up with jobs based upon that, Sean McDermott just seems like a solid X and O guy on the defensive side of the ball, man. And I just don't think anyone, and Frazier was well liked. He was well liked, certainly in the building, and I think in the community as well.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't think
you missing him on Sundays though.
No,
that's what
I mean. I'm not, and I think people should have been looking at it like from the perspective of an upgrade, because I think it is.
I do too, so far anyway. And again, this was a good high-powered offense that just hung 70 on someone the week before. So this was their first real test. Again, you talked about it a lot last week. You just wanted to talk about this game last week, and now we're here, and now you're bitching about how long the show's going for and all this other shit.
I'm just having a little fun. I like to talk about other stuff, but I'm enjoying talking about the Bills. And
I do want to talk about 2 more players specifically, because I thought they were absolutely outstanding. We've talked every week so far since the season started about Rousseau making good plays and playing well, but the sacks weren't coming. Well, he had 2 on Sunday. He was awesome, and so was Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver had a sack. They showed one. It was a running play. I don't know if you saw it on replay at the stadium. He put a swim move on whoever the center was so hard. Liam Eichenberg, I think it was. Eichenberg. He put such a nasty swim move on the guy. He literally never touched him. He went untouched and hit the running back in the backfield because the center literally whiffed on the block. He brought pressure, had a couple good hits today. He's been outstanding. He went down. It was a little bit of a scare, but he was right back in the game. Ed Oliver's been, and Daquan Jones too. I mean, I got to throw Daquan in there. He's been really good too. This front 4 is just dominating right now.
Are they the best in the league? I mean, it's can you not make that argument? Can you? I mean, forget about the front.
And Von Miller's coming back.
Yeah, so I mean, let's just expand it to defensive line, because one of the reasons, and we talked about this, one of the reasons maybe why Oliver is as fresh and making the sort of plays that he's making this year is because we go 4 deep there this year. Again, another Puna Ford scratch. And we're going to have probably not next week against Jacksonville, but in 2 weeks, we're going to have the debate over, which end is going to take a seat when Von comes back. But man, I mean, 1 through 8, 1 through 9, whatever they are, who's better?
I don't think anyone's deeper. I think we've seen maybe the other 2 candidates. Maybe I'm forgetting about somebody, but Washington, its front 4 is ferocious. And I mean, the Bills just dominated that. And then the Jets, who, they definitely got the better of the Bills offensive line in week 1. That Jets front 4 is very much real. I don't think anyone's deeper than the Bills, though.
Floyd, Miller, Rousseau. Come on. Find me 3 better, 1 through 3.
Yeah.
I mean, that's now, mind you, all right, we're a little long in the tooth amongst those three, maybe a little unproven in the one who's, not long in the tooth. But still, right now, at the way Floyd and Rousseau have been playing, and if Miller comes back to the level that he was at last year, I am not Homer guy. I'm not,
right.
but I'm also not very dialed in, to the other defensive lines in the league. But
saying.
Man, I'm sorry. I'd be hard pressed to find three any better. And it's and the
Puna is not dressing, and he's not a bad defensive tackle. He's pretty damn good. He is.
Yeah. I still think he's going to be.
Saddle's earning his keep, though.
He's going to be a run heavy guy. Like if Ford is Daquan Jones insurance. Daquan Jones's injury last year in the leading up to the Cincinnati playoff game, I think hurt a lot. They gouged us between the tackles. I don't think the Bills were going to come out and tell you that Puna Ford is Daquan Jones insurance, because Puna Ford ain't going to sign here to be Daquan Jones insurance. But at the end of the day, I think that's exactly what he's become.
It speaks to your opening point about this roster right now. Puna Ford can't even get in the lineup.
Insane depth.
Kyler Elam, who will be in the lineup going forward. I mean, he doesn't suck. I mean, they don't trust him, but he's not garbage. He might not start for other teams, but he would be on that field.
He may not start
any other team.
He still may not start for this one, even after,
listen, that injury ruins what otherwise would have been almost a perfect day. And by the way, this Bills offense, to me, the only time I can ever remember a Bills offense in recent memory playing like this was New England in the playoffs, where they just did whatever they wanted to. This almost was similar. What did the Bills punt once today? And I don't know what happened at the very end of the game.
It was a nice punt. It was a really nice punt where Martin and if I'm not mistaken, man, it may have been a punt that mattered. It might have been like still in that 21-14 range of scores when Martin buried him
Wasn't it late
inside the 5.
It was in the second quarter. I'm pretty sure it was pretty late in the second quarter when it happened. But yeah, they only punted once. There was a stat, and Miami still does, because they didn't punt. They were just turning the ball over. But it's crazy how many more touchdowns this year Buffalo has in punts. The Bills got 6 punts so far in 4 games this year. They punted once. They settled for a field goal a couple times. They were 3 for 3 their first 3 red zone trips, and then they settled for a field goal. Then whatever at the end of the game. I know Kyle Allen was in, kneel down. Anyway, my point was this would have been a perfect victory and a perfect week and a perfect game. But unfortunately, we're taping this Sunday, and there's no sense of jumping the gun. But it certainly appears like Trey White tore his Achilles, and that he's done. And it's just that's tough, man. That's rough. I thought last year he came back, he tried, and it wasn't him. He wasn't there. I was really impressed with him this offseason. I thought he looked great at camp. The highlight of training camp for me was watching Trey White and Stefon Diggs go on one-on-one. I thought that carried into the regular season. He had an interception last week, dropped the pick 6 this week, but it was playing really well. And he drops a non-contact injury. This really sucks. People have been, burying Kyler Elam, and we're going to find out now. I think we're going to find out anyway what Kyler Elam's made of. But anyway, this is a devastating injury. And again, you were at the stadium, and Tony Romo spoke pretty much at length at the Bills' defense is different when Trey White's in there, because you just leave him out there on an island alone. You got this guy, and we don't have to worry. The safeties play different. So a lot of shit's going to change now going forward with Trey White out there, and you got Benford and Dane Jackson and Kyler Elam in the mix right now. So that hurts. Big injury. One of the worst injuries that, guys that you could at least afford to lose. I say Trey White probably is in your top 5, maybe. Is he in your top 5? Let's figure this out. Josh for sure.
Allen, Diggs, Milano right off the jump.
Yeah, those are 3 right away. I'd say Deion Dawkins, because he plays left tackle and they don't really have any proven depth. So I would say Deion Dawkins. As much as I love any defensive lineman, and there's a lot of talent ones, you just talked about how deep they are. You can overcome that. I don't know. he's close. He's right around the top 5. Anyway.
Yeah.
Like a high.
I look at it. I look at it like this: when it comes to an injury to a star player,
he was upset. God, it sucked.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't, again, when I was talking about the fumble and not having a clue what's going on, it took a little while for me to hear, someone behind me talking about it being Trey, because your eyes weren't even on that. I believe that was a fourth down stop. That might have been the sack on fourth down. So you're just, you're strictly looking in that mix there, and you're like, where the hell, did something happen down there? And then you see the helmet go flying, and I think that's when the severity of the injury started to present itself. And then you heard it was Trey, and you put that together with the helmet flying, and it took the air out of the stadium a little bit. I look at it this way, though: there's two trains of thought with that type of injury, an injury to a defensive star player. All right. You have one group of people that it's doomsday. All right. It's like you're snake bitten. This tends to be, the more, hypersensitive fan and stuff like that, of which we have many. But it's like, just shitty things happen, that sort of thing.
Here we go again.
Here we go. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Then you got the other side that is like, well, look, they tend to lean on the betting lines. Okay. They tend to lean on the betting lines, and they'll make the point that the injury, even a season ending injury to a star corner, simply doesn't move the betting line that much in terms of, a team's Super Bowl odds. If they're a Super Bowl caliber team. I'm somewhere in the middle of those two kind of deep-ended thoughts. I'm not doom and gloom, because I do think we have the luxury of a lot of depth. Again, certainly the buzzword for today. It's not Trey White, level of depth. It's not like the same depth as you get on a defensive line where, your guys are in and out, in and out, in and out.
Right.
Now you're bringing in one or two guys who don't see the field very often, be that Dane Jackson or, or Kyer Elam. But, look, man, bettors know a lot of shit. People who, make odds and stuff like that to win, their employer money. They look at everything you could possibly look at, and it's just a cornerback injury is not going to move that line that much. So how much does it hurt? When will it hurt? Those are questions still to be answered. But if you want to be optimistic about it, that's where you fall. You fall on the fact that it doesn't change betting odds for them that much, and that says something.
I'm worried mostly because you lose a good starter, but I'm also if there's one person on this team who's a starter at this point that I'm still not sold on at all, is Christian Benford. Not that he's looked horrible. He hasn't played horrible. Like, he hasn't gotten roasted repeatedly on any week this season, but I'm just not. I don't trust him right now.
Yeah,
Dane Jackson is Dane Jackson. That's, he's a low end CB2. He's not going to get you killed more times than not. He makes a good plays. Had a couple nice hits on today's game. You could do worse than Dane Jackson, but you got Jamar Chase coming up on the schedule, and some of these guys, and CeeDee Lamb, some of these great receivers. It's just, I don't know. I will say, and look, it's not even confirmed that he's out for the season yet, although by the time people are listening to this, he's done. But anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Beane makes a trade. It wouldn't stun me. I mean, this is an area where you could go to a team like, and I don't know corners. I haven't had any time to process or think about it. Sure, some people will this week, but a team that's going fucking nowhere, about Chicago or Denver, Arizona, maybe there's a good veteran out there that the Bills could get. I would certainly consider it, because, again, Kyer Elam has not been good enough to be active this year. He can't beat out Dane Jackson. He can't beat out Christian Benford. He didn't beat him out of camp, didn't beat him out in preseason, and he hasn't played well enough in practice to overtake any of them on the depth chart until now. He'll be active. He'll probably be the third boundary. I suspect it'll be Dane Jackson and Christian Benford as your starters. But I don't know. With so much talent and depth around this roster, I would love to see Brandon Beane explore getting a veteran corner who's still got a little bit of juice left in the tank.
Well, I think he's going to use these 2 weeks to, to figure that out. Whether or not Elam sees the field, I don't know. They may not even need to know exactly what Elam could do in this spot. Maybe it's just like, all right, I need to know what Benford could do. And then even if Elam can replace Benford, I still know I got to do something. He's got a couple weeks to make the call. I don't hate the idea of seeing if Cam Lewis, who has gone from boundary corner to safety to nickelback. All right. Could he possibly make his way back into the mix at boundary corner?
I don't like him doing anything more than covering kicks.
I hear you, man. But he passed around Neal, for what I think is Taron Johnson's, primary backup. So, Cam Lewis has started to, find his way in the National Football League. All right. Does that mean that, he can suddenly head back to, to a boundary corner? It's kind of the same argument as I want to see Tage Thompson go back to wing with Dylan Cousins in the middle. People would think I'm crazy because obviously he's found his way in the middle of the ice, but I don't know. It's an option. All right. Yeah. It's an option. If I got to go kind of re-up my depth of my four player depth at corner. I'm hoping maybe it's Lewis, but if they have to go do something, then go do something, man. You cannot let a week, whatever this is, week 4 injury derail your season, no matter how good that player is.
Yeah. Well, silver lining, this is an opportunity for Benford and maybe an opportunity for Elam to prove that he's not a first round bust, because at this point, that's what we all think. Not saying it yet because he's only in year 2, a little bit premature to call him a bust, but it's what he's headed towards. So maybe this might be an opportunity for him to prove otherwise. A couple quick other football things. Cincinnati got smacked by Tennessee today, and T. Higgins broke his ribs. I guess has a fractured rib. I didn't watch the game at all. So, I mean, I really don't have any takes about that game specifically, but you get smacked by Tennessee. Dude, my point is this. The Bengals are probably one of 2 teams that I hate playing more than anybody. I hate playing the Jets and I hate playing the Bengals. The Bengals are 1-3 and they're in a shitload of trouble. Joey Burrow, they're not getting it done on offense. Higgins might be down. Early or not, you're 1-3. You're in a lot of trouble. Baltimore's in that division and they're 3-1. They're playing well.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that we've kind of been able to dodge as Bills fans the last few years of, having good football. We certainly didn't dodge it for 15 or whatever the hell it was. But when we got there, all right, when we got there, we haven't really had that fall off yet. A lot of people want to beat us up for a playoff performance or 2. That's fine. Shit, even when the 90s version of the Bills arrived, they had that 89 season where they went like 9-7 and had to sneak in at the end there. Yeah. They had their hiccups, and we're still capable of being like an 11-6 team or whatever. I'm not saying that it's been 13-3, 13-4, whatever, over the course of this era of football, but we sure shit haven't been bit the way the Bengals have started this season, and I think that's a credit to McDermott. It hasn't gotten away from us to that extent quite yet.
I'm really impressed with the job that McDermott's done, by the way, over the first month or so of the season. I want to throw that out there. Last point: Bills didn't have any impact in the game, but you know what? Who gives a shit? DeMar Hamlin being active. That is a big deal.
First thing I noticed.
Yeah. Him being active is a big deal. And all I kept picturing in my mind, because there's going to be a movie someday about this, as there should be. It's an unbelievably great story to tell. But this is like, if it's not the culmination of the movie, this is like one of those climatic scenes at the very end of the movie. Even if he didn't play, even if it was only play special teams, not a factor in the game, but just to suit up and play and come back from what he's went through. What a great moment just for him personally. Forget football for a second, just being able to play. Like I said, I see the movie coming down the road, and this is going to be one of the biggest scenes in the movie.
First thing I noticed on the football field today, all right, if I have my way, I basically walk into the stadium right as, like, the Jaws music is playing for a kickoff. I got no use for introductions. I got no use for anything. I like to just walk into the stadium and sit down and boom, we're kicking off. And that I timed it perfectly today. I had an all around great day timing out.
Yeah, you talked about the traffic when you beat the traffic.
I nailed everything. But the first thing I did, I looked down on the football field. Bills were lining up to receive the opening kick, and I saw number 3, and he got a big hug from I think it was Terrell Dotson, 25.
Yep.
And another hug, and the other person that was lined up next to him. And it was pretty good stuff. My kid was like, I'm surprised they didn't do something for him to, with this being his first act game. And I don't really think you can when you've been inactive the first few weeks. He's full of shit takes anyways, the kid. But I noticed it right away, and I'm glad I did. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really cool. Obviously, a lot of attention on social media and nationally, as it should be. Again, it's a great story, and this was one of the culmination points of his life, not just his career. So you got Jacksonville next week, and then after that, you got the Giants at home, at New England, Tampa at home. There's a legit chance to go run this table to what is it, 3-1, 7-1 before you play Cincinnati on Sunday night, who again, Cincinnati has been shitty lately. And then you got Denver and New York at home back to back after that. So the schedule's really set up well for the Bills. I know you didn't watch the Jacksonville game today because you went to the game. I watched that game. I was hoping to learn more about Jacksonville. The only thing I learned is that Desmond Ridder is just an awful quarterback. Atlanta's got a good roster. That he's fucking atrocious though. Josh Allen had 3 sacks. And a strip sack too. He's really good. I don't feel like talking about Jacksonville next. Before I let you go, though, I do actually get a couple Sabres thoughts from you. Zach, as we tape this, because this is dropping on the audio side on Monday morning, and the Sabres are going to make some moves, but I don't think they're going to cut them if they do now. But Zach Benson might start the season with Buffalo, man. I'm impressed with him. I mean, I haven't watched a ton of preseason hockey and shit, but I watched some of the highlights and stuff. And he's skating with Tage and Skinner. And I thought that might have been like 1 or 2 practices during camp just to give the kid a little look-see with the big boys. He's still skating with that line. And Tuck was playing, I think, with maybe with Cousins. But anyway, Zach Benson, first-round pick just a few months ago. He might be starting the season on this roster.
Yeah, I mean, my ears perked up when people started talking about Benson actually already being a better prospect than Savoy. And I don't think people that was meant to take away from, Savoy's ceiling at all. I just think, and this wasn't just local Sabres Twitter, there were people doing, charts of prospects and things like that. And people were putting Benson as a higher long-term, long-range prospect than even Savoy. So with that in mind, when he came to camp and started to impress early on, I then, of course, leaned on, Sabres Twitter a little bit that said, hey, this is real. I mean, it's real. Everything he's doing on the forecheck and just going into those mucky areas and stuff like that, all those hockey cliches, everybody's saying he's doing what needs to be done. And it's like, all right, well, with no Quinn, and a guy like Ola, it comes down to, do you want the $5 million guy that everyone kind of wanted out of here in Victor Olofsson? You might end up with both, but just
right.
For comparison's sake, what would you rather have? Would you rather have the veteran who what the ceiling is, or you also know what the limitations are, or are you ready to just throw caution to the wind with the kid? First year of entry contract.
9
be
games.
Damned.
He can play 9. He can play 9 games, so he might get a 9-game audition where he can play 9
burn
games.
It.
And after 9 games, you burn the first year.
Burn it. All right. I mean, look, if he belongs,
right.
Burn it.
Well, people from hockey people that I follow, the concern is about a kid that young and still developing is that he might be all right early on, but the grind of an 82 game NHL season against NHL professionals may be too much for somebody his age. But I do think he's got an excellent chance to at least get that 9-game audition where he doesn't burn the first year of his ELA, and then but he couldn't play in Rochester. He'd have to go to WHL and play. But I've also heard Brandon Byro is got a legitimate chance to make this roster. Don't know much about him. I do know that if the Sabres tried to send him down to Rochester, he'd have to clear waivers. So this guy might have played his way into making the roster, or someone's going to pick him up type of thing. Yuri Kulik, and again, we're not like hockey experts right now. We're not as locked in as we will be soon enough. Not with preseason anyway. But Yuri Kulik is a guy that I thought a couple months ago, I'm like, this guy is going to be the guy to make the team and make an impact. But sounds like he's had a quiet camp in preseason, and he'll probably go back to Rochester, which he should for to get some more seasoning. These guys are still so young, dude. That's the whole thing.
They're stacked.
Yeah, they are, man.
They're stacked, man. They're stacked.
And last point, Devin Levi looks really good. I think he's legit. Like, I just see star potential in him. I mean, the Sabres' success looks like it's going to ride on him because he's your guy, and UPL is not that guy, man.
They showed it last year when Granato went back to him on like back-to-back nights. When we still had some playoff hopes.
Sure, yeah.
Granato showed his hand last year, and when Adams, talked at the end of the season and early this year and stuff like that, they didn't talk about him developing anywhere but the NHL. They didn't hand him anything, but they didn't talk about a curve that included Rochester. And I think that was telling. I think the Sabres were ready to give it to him. They were ready to give it to him from the jump. They were ready to give it to him from the jump.
Yeah. All right. Last point here. And I'll have Joe Yurden on the show, by the way, tomorrow. I want to dig into the Sabres more with Joe, of course, who covers the team. 11 days left before the regular season starts, when this drops anyway. Obviously, does Zach Benson stick around? I think that's the number one storyline. But over these next 11 days or so, is there one player or one specific thing that you're looking to learn about or find out more than anything else?
Not really, man. I'm looking to see what sort of moves are made, because I do think it's still possible that guys like Olofsson and UPL could be on the move, because I think Comrie right now is got the inside track on the backup on the backup spot, and I think that I think Olofsson's still someone that was never meant to be in their plans until Quinn went down,
right?
And now that Benson has kind of made the made the Quinn injury at least a little more palatable. If in fact we're going to replace that young stud with a brand new young stud, then where do we really fit Victor Olofsson in? So I'm interested to see largely just see what the roster moves look like as they near whatever it's called in the NHL, cut down day or whatever, and if it's going to take a little bit of trade maneuvering to get the better younger guys here, or if they're going to roll out Olofsson and UPL as a third goal. I mean, are they going to do that again? Could they possibly do that again? It's going to drive people crazy,
including me,
if they do that. Look, if they're very close, if they're just a matter of some back end compensation away on what the trade might look like for a UPL, and you got to keep them on the roster, fine, all right. But I don't think you're rolling into the season for any extended period of time with three, because that got messy last year, and it just doesn't seem to be the right play.
I don't know that I'm looking forward to any one specific thing, but one thing I definitely hope happens, I don't want to see three goalies on this roster. I really hope that they don't keep UPL on the roster and have three goalies just because of what you think at this point is potential. maybe. To me, if you think Comrie has clearly outplayed him, and if Comrie should be the number 2, waive him or send him to waivers, see if he gets to Rochester. And if somebody claims him, they claim him. I mean, you got your number 1 goalie for years to come anyway. I'm not keeping 3 guys. I hope they don't keep 3 goalies on the roster again. That's the one thing I don't want to see.
Yeah, I wish maybe we could just get some sort of veteran guy, some that could I don't know, maybe Cooley. I'm afraid I still want a third layer of insurance in goal because of Comrie's, or I'm sorry, Levi's age and experience level, Comrie's inconsistency. Like there's something about just having a third somewhere in the organization. If someone should get dinged, and
just not on the active roster, though.
I know. And now it ends up being like Michael Hauser or Devin Cooley or some shit. If it's not UPL, I felt better about UPL. I honestly, I felt like Levi and UPL would be the tandem, and then no one would want, Comrie's 1.8 mil or whatever, and Comrie would be the good soldier who goes down. Mm-hmm. And are we rushing a little bit because UPL just let in a shitty goal or 2 the other day? Are we right to be giving it to Comrie right now? Maybe not, but Comrie's look good, UPL's look bad. It's about halfway through the preseason. So what other conclusion are you going to draw?
It's also preseason and only a couple. What are they at? 2 starts each, maybe, I think, in the preseason. Like maybe the Sabres just aren't going to put all the stock into 2 starts in the preseason, and they feel better about, they know who these goalies are. Going to get out of here. Any final Bills take or observation from this game, either that we didn't talk about or something that you think is like your biggest point of emphasis? Because you did say these last 2 weeks, after the Jets lost, the next 2 games, you didn't call them gimmies, but they really weren't going to tell us much about this team. But you said this week would. So based on that, where are you at with this team? That's how we'll get out of here. I'll ask you, where do you think we're at with this team right now? And if there's 1 or 2 like main talking points when it comes to this team. For me, it's McDermott. I think the job he did on defense these last couple of weeks, I'm really confident in him. But what about you?
I mean, I actually don't know who's left amongst the undefeated in the NFL and all that kind of stuff that drives power rankings and things like that. But this team belongs right back
Frisco.
in. Okay, yeah. I'm still betting on Josh Allen over Brock Purdy. This team belongs right back in the conversation of AFC favorite.
All right, guys. And on that note, I'll be back with Joe Yurden tomorrow. Take care.